Welcome. In this video we'll dive into Madame Bovary, Gustave Flaubert's timeless masterpiece. This powerful novel tells the tragic story of Emma Bovary, a woman consumed by dreams of romance and luxury, only to find herself trapped in disappointment, betrayal, and despair. Through Emma's journey, Flaubert delivers one of literature's sharpest critiques of society, love, and illusion. Stay with us as we explore this unforgettable tale in detail. Emma Rouault grew up on her father's farm in the French countryside. From a young age, she was different from the other village girls. While they focused on chores and daily life, Emma spent her time reading romantic novels. These books, filled with knights, castles, passion, and adventure, planted in her heart a deep longing for something greater than the ordinary world around her. She imagined a life of luxury, elegance, and sweeping romance, far removed from the simple routines of rural France. Balls, dresses, poetry, and undying love, these were the dreams that filled her imagination. But reality was much duller: farm animals, household duties, and quiet country evenings. Emma's mother had died when she was young, and her father, though kind, could never understand the intensity of her inner world. She seemed destined for a life that would never match her dreams. When Charles Bovary, a kind but clumsy country doctor, entered her life, Emma saw him as a possible escape. He was not particularly handsome or charming, but he offered stability and a different path from the farm. She believed that marriage to Charles might finally open the door to the kind of romantic, adventurous life she had always imagined. Her youthful heart whispered, "This is the beginning of something extraordinary." She was wrong. Marriage to Charles and the disappointment of reality. At first, Emma believed that marriage would transform her life. She imagined candlelit dinners, passionate kisses, and a world filled with excitement. But after marrying Charles Bovary, reality quickly crushed her dreams. Charles was a good man, gentle, patient, and devoted to Emma, but he was also plain, unimaginative, and deeply ordinary. His idea of happiness was simple: eating a good meal, tending to his patients, and spending quiet evenings at home. For Emma, this was suffocating. The romance she had longed for never came. There were no grand adventures, no thrilling moments, only the dull rhythm of daily life in a small provincial town. Her disappointment grew stronger with each passing day. She thought marriage would be like the novels she had devoured in her youth, but instead it felt like a prison of routine and boredom. Emma began to resent Charles, not because he was cruel, but because he was ordinary. She wanted more, much more than he could ever give, and so Emma's restless heart began to wander. She still yearned for passion, luxury, and a life beyond the walls of her modest home. The seeds of her eventual downfall were already being sown: Yonville, social life, and the temptation of desire. After some years in the countryside, Charles moved his practice and his family to the small town of Yonville-le-Baillet. For Emma, this change felt like an opportunity. A new place meant new people, new experiences, and perhaps the excitement she craved. In Yonville, Emma entered a different social circle. She met Monsieur Homais, the pompous town pharmacist who loved to display his knowledge; Léon Dupuis, a young law clerk with refined manners and romantic ideals; and various local families who filled the evenings with gossip and small talk. At first, Emma was fascinated. The dinners, the conversations, and the polite society seemed like a step closer to the sophisticated life she had always imagined. But soon the novelty faded, and she realized that Yonville was just another cage. The people talked endlessly, but rarely about anything meaningful. The elegance she craved was still out of reach. The attraction to Léon. Among all the people she met, Léon Dupuis stood out. He was cultured, sensitive, and shared Emma's love of art, poetry, and dreams of passion. Their conversations stirred something in her heart. For the first time, she felt that someone understood her longing for beauty and romance. Though their relationship remained innocent at first, Emma's imagination filled the gaps. She began to dream of Léon as the man who could finally give her the life she wanted, a life of emotion and poetry, instead of Charles's dull simplicity. But Emma hesitated. She was married, and society's rules weighed heavily on her. Still, her heart burned with desire, and she began to see her marriage as a chain keeping her from the happiness she deserved. The world of Yonville, with its polite society and hidden temptations, became the stage for Emma's restless heart to wander further into danger. The affair with Rodolphe, passion and illusion. Emma's restless longing for romance and excitement soon found its outlet in Rodolphe Boulanger, a wealthy local landowner. Unlike Charles, who was plain and ordinary, or Léon, who was gentle but hesitant, Rodolphe was bold, confident and seductive. From the moment he saw Emma, Rodolphe recognized her vulnerability. He could tell that she was hungry for passion, for something beyond the monotony of her married life. To him she was a beautiful escape, but to Emma he appeared as the embodiment of everything she had dreamed of. A dangerous seduction, Rodolphe pursued Emma with deliberate charm. He whispered sweet words, promised her happiness, and painted a picture of a life full of passion and freedom. Emma, desperate to escape the dullness of her reality, surrendered completely. Their affair consumed her. Secret meetings, stolen kisses, and romantic promises filled her days. For the first time she felt alive. With Rodolphe, Emma believed she had finally found the true love she had always sought in her novels, dreams of escape. Her passion grew so strong that she convinced herself they could run away together. She imagined leaving Charles and her child behind, traveling with Rodolphe to Paris, and living in endless luxury and excitement. Emma even prepared for their escape, packing her belongings and saying silent goodbyes. Her heart raced with hope, the crushing betrayal. But Rodolphe never intended to leave his comfortable life behind. When the moment came, he abandoned Emma, sending her only a letter of farewell. The betrayal shattered her. Her romantic dreams collapsed once more, leaving her in despair. She fell into a deep depression, bedridden for months, her health and spirit broken. This cruel disappointment was one of the turning points of Emma's life. Yet even after such devastation, her longing for romance and escape would return again, proving that her desires were not just fleeting passions, but an unquenchable fire that consumed her soul. The return of Léon, a second chance at love. After her devastating breakup with Rodolphe, Emma sank into despair. Her days were filled with regret, bitterness, and disappointment. Charles, unaware of the true reason behind her suffering, tried to comfort her with his gentle patience, but his kindness only deepened her frustration. She longed for passion, not pity. Time passed, and life in Yonville continued. But then a familiar figure returned, Léon Dupuis, the young law clerk who had once stirred Emma's heart. He had moved away to study in Rouen, but now he came back more confident, refined and ambitious, rekindling the flame. The moment Emma and Léon saw each other again, the old attraction reignited. This time, there was no hesitation. Emma, having already crossed the line with Rodolphe, no longer cared about society's rules or morality. She wanted love at any cost. Léon, too, had grown bolder. What was once innocent admiration now became full-blown desire. They began to meet in secret, first with cautious excitement, then with reckless passion. A life of deception. Emma and Léon's affair burned hot and fast. They exchanged love letters, met in hotels in Rouen, and wove elaborate lies to hide their relationship. For Emma, these moments were intoxicating. Each meeting made her feel like she was living inside the romantic novels of her youth. But as time went on, cracks began to appear. Léon, though deeply infatuated at first, started to feel the weight of Emma's intensity. What she demanded was not just love, but a complete escape from reality, a dream he could not fully sustain. Emma's growing recklessness. The affair pushed Emma deeper into recklessness. She spent money carelessly, bought expensive clothes and gifts, and lived far beyond her means. To her, these luxuries were part of the grand romance she had always imagined. To Charles, however, it was financial ruin. Emma believed she had finally found happiness again, but beneath the passion lay the same fragile illusions that had always betrayed her. She was running faster toward the edge, blind to the consequences waiting below. Debt, desperation, and the collapse of illusions. As Emma's affair with Léon consumed her, so did her hunger for luxury. She surrounded herself with fine dresses, jewelry, and lavish experiences, believing they were proof that she was living the passionate, extraordinary life she had always dreamed of. But these luxuries came at a cost a cost she could not afford. To pay for her indulgences, Emma turned to Monsieur Leroux, a sly merchant and moneylender in Yonville. At first he seemed generous, offering her easy credit and flattering her with promises. But each signature, each paper she signed, pulled her deeper into a trap of debt. The mounting pressure. Charles had no idea of the financial disaster Emma was creating. He trusted her completely, never questioning the bills or the loans. Emma hid the truth from him, just as she hid her affair with Léon. But the debts grew larger, and soon Emma found herself drowning. Leroux tightened his grip, demanding payment and threatening to expose her. What had once felt like freedom now became chains heavier than ever. Desperation and betrayal. Emma turned to Léon for help, begging him to rescue her from her financial ruin. But Léon, overwhelmed and frightened, began to pull away. His love was not strong enough to face scandal or destruction. In her desperation, Emma even sought out Rodolphe, the man who had once broken her heart. She begged him to lend her money, to save her from disgrace. But Rodolphe, cold and indifferent, refused. For him their past meant nothing. The collapse of illusions. Alone, abandoned and trapped by debt, Emma finally realized the truth she had spent her whole life denying, the romance she had longed for, the luxury she had chased, the passion she believed would save her. All of it was an illusion. Her dreams, fueled by novels and fantasies, had destroyed her. There was no escape left, only despair. With debts closing in and no one willing to save her, Emma found herself trapped in a nightmare of her own making. The grand illusions of romance, wealth and passion that once carried her heart had now turned into a crushing weight. The final desperation. Every door she knocked on was shut. Léon, once her tender lover, withdrew in fear. Rodolphe, her former passion, dismissed her pleas. Leroux, the merchant who had lured her into debt, showed no mercy. For Emma, it seemed as though the whole world had conspired to destroy her. But in truth, she had destroyed herself, chasing dreams that reality could never fulfill. The poison. In her despair, Emma turned to the ultimate escape, death. She secretly obtained a dose of arsenic from the pharmacy, hiding it in her clothes. That night, in her bedroom, she swallowed the poison. The agony was immediate and unbearable. She writhed in pain, her body twisting as the poison burned through her. Charles and others tried desperately to save her, but nothing could undo what she had done. The tragic last moments. Her death was slow and cruel. In her final hours, she drifted between delirium and regret. She called out for love, for forgiveness, for the dreams that had betrayed her. But there was no rescue, no salvation. Emma Bovary died as she had lived, caught between illusions and reality, consumed by desires that could never be satisfied. Aftermath. Her death left devastation in its wake. Charles was heartbroken, unable to comprehend how the woman he loved had suffered so deeply. Soon after, grief consumed him as well, leaving their child, little Bertie, abandoned to poverty and hardship. The world moved on, but Emma's story remained, a warning, a tragedy, and a masterpiece of Flaubert's pen. Madame Bovary's legacy, Flaubert's message to the world, a scandal in literature. When Madame Bovary was first published in 1857, it shocked French society. Flaubert was even put on trial for immorality, accused of corrupting public morals by telling the story of an adulterous woman in such vivid, realistic detail. Yet the court eventually cleared him, and the novel became a landmark of literary history. Realism over romance. Flaubert's genius was his refusal to romanticize Emma's story. Unlike the novels she devoured, filled with knights, castles, and happy endings, Madame Bovary exposes the harsh truth. Real life does not bend to fantasy. Emma's downfall was not just personal, it was universal. She represented the dangers of chasing illusions and refusing to accept the limits of reality, a mirror of society. Through Emma, Flaubert held up a mirror to society. He criticized the emptiness of middle-class life, the hypocrisy of provincial towns, and the shallow pursuit of wealth and pleasure. He showed how individuals, especially women trapped by rigid roles, could be destroyed by dreams that the world could never fulfill. Emma's enduring symbol. Even today, Emma Bovary remains one of literature's most haunting characters. She is a warning about the destructive power of unchecked desire, but also a deeply human figure, fragile, flawed, and desperately searching for meaning. Flaubert's masterpiece reminds us that illusions, when clung to too tightly, can consume us, and yet it also forces us to ask, isn't the longing for something greater than ordinary life part of what makes us human? Enjoyed this summary? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with more classic book summary.